Welcome to the 82nd Marshall County REMC Annual Membership Meeting, and thank you for attending this important event. I am Bob Broker, Chairman of the Board of Directors. Minutes of today's business meeting will be recorded by John Redinger, Secretary and Treasurer of the Board of Directors, and David Fortin, representing the Stevens Travis Fortin Law Office, will serve as parliamentarian. At this time, I would like to call the meeting to order. We will now recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now we'll have the national anthem.
Hello and welcome to the Marshall County virtual edition of our 2021 annual meeting. I'm John Redinger, Secretary Treasurer for the REMC, and at this time let us bow our heads and place ourselves in the presence of the Lord. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to gather all of us today for this important meeting. As our country continues to go through such unprecedented times, Lord, we thank you for your constant presence as you watch over us and give us guidance, strength, and health. Please, Father, lift up those in need, those struggling from challenges that life has dealt them, including those who have lost loved ones and those who are suffering from the mental or physically. Lord, please watch over and protect those at home and abroad who selflessly put their lives on the line so that we can enjoy the freedoms we are all blessed within this great country. Lord, thank you for watching over the electric co-op, the linemen who do the dangerous work, and so that we have electricity that has become such a necessity in our lives. Help us to be forgiving to one another, to be teachable, and to desire the good of the whole. We ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen. At this point in time, for those of you that have attended our meetings in person, and hopefully we'll get back to that as we get through this unprecedented pandemic of the last few years, we always like to outreach and recognize those that have served in the military. So at this point in time, we would like to honor any one of our members and those around us that have served in the Army, in the Marine Corps, in the Navy, in the Air Force, and in the Coast Guard. We greatly appreciate those of you that have served active duty in protecting us and defending the freedoms that our country has. And we want to also recognize the veterans and those that are retired from the military. At this point in time, let's have a moment for those that have served and have lost, the POWs and the missing in action. Thank you, and hopefully we'll be able to honor you in person as the pandemic gets behind us. Well, here's the proof of mailing notice. I, John Redinger, first duly sworn on oath, deposes and says that he is the duly elected qualified and acting secretary of the Marshall County Rural Electric Corporation, and that on March 3rd, 2021, we had mailed to each member of the cooperative at their address, as it appears on the records of the cooperative, a notice of the annual meeting of the members of the cooperative to be held on April 6th, 2021, by depositing such notice with postage thereon, addressed as foresaid in the United States Mail, and that the attached and foregoing is true and a correct copy of such notice. So at this point in the meeting, we want to present the 2019 annual meeting minutes, which were printed in the Indiana Connections that you received a year ago when we were planning to have the meeting in 2020. It is the opinion of the secretary that we approve the minutes of the 2019 annual meeting. Any objections can be addressed by point of order at the next annual meeting. Thank you.
Hello, I'm David Fortin, attorney for the REMC, here to give the report of the nominating committee. The nominating committee of the Marshall County Rural Electric Membership Corporation met pursuant to their notice at the REMC office on January 10th, 2020. The purpose of the nominating committee was to select candidates for directors to be voted on at the annual meeting on April 7th, 2020. The following members of the nominating committee were present: Steve Blackford, John Broker, John Langfelt, Kay Schultz, and Lauren Sellers were present. Mark Batband, CEO, was present to provide the nominating committee with the bylaws that outline the duties and responsibilities of the directors and of the nominating committee. Steve Blackford was elected to serve as chairman, and committee member John Langfelt was selected as secretary. After discussing the qualifications of members, the following REMC members were selected as candidates for director to be voted on by the members at the annual meeting on April 7th, 2020. Brian Blosser, Robin Roberts, Ryan Sieber, Dr. Richard Leeper, and Steve Roberts. There being no further business to come before the nominating committee, the meeting was adjourned. And that concludes the report of the nominating committee.
We would like to encourage the members to attend the COVID-safe drive-through voting that's being held this evening, Tuesday, April 6th, at the Plymouth Wesleyan Church from 4 to 7 p.m. This year there will be $10 attendance awards for each member that comes, and the registered vote will then be entered into a prize drawing. We will have 20 $50 REMC electric bill credits. There will be 5 $150 REMC bill credits, and there will be one $500 grand prize REMC electric bill credit. The prize winners will be drawn at the conclusion of the drive-through voting and will be announced on the Marshall County REMC website tomorrow. This year we have 6 director candidates running for 4 open board positions. The 2 candidates receiving the most votes will be elected to 3-year terms. From there, the 2 candidates receiving the next highest number of votes will be elected for 2-year terms. But just as COVID-19 has altered everything about our lives, it's added a new wrinkle to our director elections. As you may know, remember the 2020 annual meeting at which incumbent directors Dr. Richard Leeper and Steve Roberts were up for re-election was canceled due to the pandemic. Leeper and Roberts are instead on the ballot this year, and if they are elected, they would be the ones serving the 2-year terms. The director candidates are Brian Blosser, Dr. Richard Leeper, Steve Ringer, Robin Roberts, Steve Roberts, and Ryan Sieber.
First of all, as we get ready to go into the financial report for the last 2 years, since we didn't have a meeting last year, I'd just like to take a brief moment to thank all the REMC employees for helping us get through the last year and a half or whatever, and since it's been since we've met, for the difficult year that the coronavirus presented to us in 2020. The auditors, we did meet in 2020 and also in 2021, looking at the report that they had done on the cooperative. They came back with a clean report, which from the board's perspective is what we always like to hear, not finding any abnormalities within the accounting system. So we'd just like to thank all the people, the employees that work within that part of the company for keeping us on our toes and keeping everything good. And thank you to the members for working with us as we had to make adjustments to the way we paid bills and get things done, and still try to maintain safety for all the members. So at this point in time, if you've got your Indiana Connections magazine, on the very back cover, there is a condensed statement of income and expenses for the last 2 years. So we start out with, and I'm not going to read these numbers line by line, but let's just talk about them in general. The very top line shows our electric energy sales of being close to $15 million. So, and that was for both years. So even though the pandemic came in and a lot of businesses and everything were kind of shut down, fortunately for us, a lot of our members are at home residential, and for what businesses we might have lost a little bit of sales to, perhaps people at home all day long actually used more energy. So our sales for the last 2 years were very steady. On the other revenue line, it shows in 2019 that we made $147,000 nearly, and in 2020 we lost almost $18,000. That loss was a one-time kind of a correction that we had, because the other revenue often is pole attachments and sales that we make to people that want to need an extra pole that's beyond on their own property, and meters and things like that, and pole connections for like phone lines or broadband companies that make attachments to our poles. And we actually had a broadband company that went bankrupt and left us with some of their property hanging on the lines, and we had an expense of taking those lines down, and that attributed to the $18,000 loss. But total operating revenue for both years was, again, very close to $15 million. Now, if we look at the expenses, where did that money go? The purchase power on the first two lines you see is right around $8.5 million. Now, the power bill that we pay at Marshall County is paid to Wabash Valley. Wabash Valley actually tolls that power through the NIPSCO transmission lines to our substations. Wabash Valley has power generation that they own. They have power generation that they buy from companies like Duke or other outfits, that power marketing groups. And we have diversified resources. Some of the resources that Wabash Valley is a partial owner of is coal, natural gas. We've got land gas facilities that take the methane gas from landfills and burn them through big generator engines, Caterpillar engines, and generate electricity, put back on. We've got some wind resources that we buy power out of. We've got some solar farms that we get a little bit of our power from, and we've got a very diversified thing. But if you add up that $8.5 million is 57% of the income that we get. So the biggest chunk of our money that we collect from the members on the power bills goes to pay for the actual power that comes into the system. Then if you look at the next 5 lines, distribution, operation expenses, member accounting, collection expenses, consumer services and expenses, and administrative and general expenses. If you kind of look back and forth between them, the distribution was about $800,000 to $900,000. So we have expenses of keeping the lines, which are all the poles and the wires and the meters and the transformers that bring the power from our substations and the operation of the substations to your house or your business. And we have to pay for that, so that's a chunk. And then the distribution, the maintenance expense is going right around a little over $1 million to $1.2 million, and that includes fixing the lines when they're down, building new lines when the old lines need upgraded, so you have reliable service. And also the tree trimming is in there because trees and wires don't mix, as Dave said in his presentation. Then we've got member accounting and collection expenses. That's the process of getting the bills collected, sending the bills out, and getting the money back into the company for that. Then we've got consumer services and information expenses. That's around $150,000 to $200,000. That's projects that we work on to help educate the consumers and some of the different other things that the REMC is involved with to help service the consumer. We've got administrative and general expenses. That totals up to about $1.3 to $4 million. Those are what it takes to get all of the expenses taken care of on some of the administrative side. So maybe not necessarily the line worker side of it, but the people behind the scenes that help it so the line workers and the front workers can get that job done. So if you total those things up, we'll call that the general category. If you look on the pie chart of operating expenses, kind of the green section of the pie is just around 26.5% of our total budget. Then we've got depreciation expenses. We put new equipment in, we've got old equipment. The equipment doesn't last forever. It's just like a tractor or a piece of farm equipment that as you use it, it's not as good as it used to be, and it finally gets to a point where it'll be wore out. So we depreciate those transformers, poles, and wires, and at some point in time then we'll have to end up replacing them. We also do pay taxes. The depreciation there was the red part pie chart, and it's around 7%. The taxes, we do pay taxes around $200,000. That's another little small sliver. It's 1.4%. Then we've got interest on our debt that we have when we put new wires and poles and transformers and substations out there. We take out loans, and then we have to pay interest on that loan. That's about 5%. And then we had some minor operating miscellaneous expenses, very small. So the total cost of providing the electric service was around $14.5 million. So of that, if you look at the difference between the total operating revenue, or all the income that we have, and all of our expenses, we had a net margin, or what was left over when you subtract those two from one another, is $450,000 to $525,000 roughly. Then we had non-operating margins, which are some of the affiliated industries and some profits that we'd made on small things around $12,000 to $40,000. Then we've got investments in associated organizations, and we get patronage capital, or what they call capital credits. And in this case, Marshall County is a member of Wabash Valley. We make investments in the Wabash Valley. It's not really a cash on hand kind of a thing, but we've got that kind of an investment in that operation, and we get paid back some patronage capital from that. Then we also have a co-op. Federated Insurance is a similar program, and sometimes we use CFC, and they have the patronage capital. So when you total all three of those together, they end up being that. So when you get to the very bottom line of the last 2 years, the Marshall County has had about total margins and member equity of $900,000 to $1 million. So we've had a very good year the last 2 years. We're thankful that we've been able to navigate through this with pretty good economics and financial statement, and we're thankful for all the members being able to pay their bill. One other thing that Marshall County REMC has entered into over the last, since 2013 was Operation Roundup. And Operation Roundup, you can always follow where the latest grants and everything go, but it's to help our community promote community service and help those organizations that are also a big benefit to the community. So in 2019, we donated almost $19,000 to 12 different organizations. And since we've begun this project in 2013, we've collected and donated over $150,000 to the local community. If you're not part of the Operation Roundup and you'd like to be, you can sign up by calling the office and getting them to change that on your bill. The average cost per member is about $6 a year, and if we put those extra little bits of change to work, we can do great things and make our community better. So thanks for listening to this report, and have a good day.
We have a motion and a second to accept the audited treasurer's report as presented. It would be the opinion of the chair that the motion passed. Accordingly, the audited treasurer's reports for 2019 and 2020 are accepted. A point of order appealing the adoption of the treasurer's reports may be raised at a subsequent meeting of the members.
Hello and welcome to the 82nd Marshall County Annual Membership Meeting. My name is Dave Llewellyn and I'm honored to be the new president and CEO of Marshall County REMC. I have worked at the co-op for the last 16 years and during that time have worn many hats, including working as the Member Services Assistant and more recently as the Member Services Manager. I've had the pleasure of getting to meet and personally work with a large portion of our membership over the years and am truly blessed to serve such great people. My first official day as CEO is definitely one I won't forget, January 1st, 2021, which was the day of the big ice storm that was immediately followed by the snowstorm. Let me tell you what an interesting first few days it was on the job. While 2020 was an unprecedented year that presented many challenges because of the global pandemic and political climate, Marshall County REMC was able to successfully maintain business continuity and accomplish our goals, which I will talk about here in a minute. At this time, I would like to take a moment to recognize and thank Mark Batman, our previous CEO, for 17 years of dedication and service to Marshall County REMC and our members. As the leader of Marshall County REMC, he was a true inspiration to me and everyone around him. Throughout Mark's leadership, he continued to stay on the leading edge of technology and taught us to embrace it within the organization. During his time, we saw great change and advancement with the successful implementation of our second generation of advanced metering infrastructure. We completed a GPS inventory of our entire electrical system, which has allowed us to move to state-of-the-art digital staking, mapping, and outage management. He also laid the groundwork for the future of the co-op with the installation of our smart grid fiber that will eventually allow us to interconnect all of our substations, delivery points, and devices throughout our system. Lastly, under his leadership, we formed a unique partnership between Marshall County REMC and Rochester Telephone Company that has been recognized in the industry as one of the first fiber partnerships of its kind in the country between an electric co-op and a telco. This partnership is bringing fiber to the home in rural Marshall County. It has allowed us to leverage the skills and knowledge of RTC's experience in the fiber industry with the skills and assets of Marshall County REMC. Mark saw and experienced great change in the industry during his time, and I will also see great change during mine. While I am well aware I have big shoes to fill, I welcome the challenge. From the board of directors, the members, and myself, congratulations, Mark, and we wish you a long, healthy retirement. While 2020 was anything but normal, we were able to still complete multiple system improvement and maintenance projects that ultimately mean better power quality and reliability for our members. Throughout the past year, we have been much more focused on working with members to address problematic trees and right-of-way access issues. Our electrical system covers more than 1,000 miles of energized line, much of it through wooded areas. Unfortunately, trees and the power lines are not a good mix. In fact, trees growing in and around the power lines are our number one cause of blinks and power outages throughout the system. Without the tree maintenance program we have, outages would have been much worse during the January ice and snowstorm for our members. Also this year, we built 3 new 3-phase tie lines that interconnect Marshall County REMC substations and delivery points. These new main feeder lines give us much more flexibility to transfer load from one delivery point to another in the event that we lose source power. This ability is often key to be able to quickly restore large member outages. Together between these projects and our annual pole maintenance program, we changed over 686 poles throughout the system in 2020. As we wrapped up the year, we were able to complete the installation of our fiber placement for our smart grid fiber loop that will interconnect our office, substation, and delivery points and all critical devices throughout our system. In 2021, we will begin phase 2 of the project, which will be the actual interconnection of the Marshall County devices into that fiber loop. Devices that are interconnected can be remotely monitored, which gives us much better insight and visibility into what's happening within the grid. This will allow us to improve member reliability and deliver real-time information so we can quickly spot and fix potential problems and identify outage locations. This year, Marshall County Fiber, Marshall County REMC's subsidiary partnership with Rochester Telephone, will continue to build out fiber to the home. We are still actively connecting subscribers around the Bourbon area as the final step to complete our fiber build-out for 2020. The primary focus this year is the installation of fiber in the southern part of the county in the area from the South County line, State Road 110, north to roughly 16th Road, going west to Pine Road and east to Gumwood Road. Initially, the fiber backbone is being installed, and once complete, members who can receive the service will be notified when it is ready for member installation. For those of you anxiously awaiting fiber, be assured that we are aware of your interest, but keep in mind that offering broadband is very expensive and complex. While it is still very early to say where we will go next, we are planning for the next phase of the fiber project, build out to the home. Dramatic changes are transforming all aspects of the energy industry. Interest in renewable energy is at an all-time high, and ultimately consumers want greater control over their energy use and payment methods. The prevalence of smartphone apps and smart technologies for the home are increasing, and consumers and businesses are showing greater interest in electric vehicles. There is no denying it, electric utilities will have to make changes in the way we provide energy to accommodate these trends. Luckily, Marshall County REMC is uniquely positioned to meet these changing energy needs because we're an electric cooperative. As CEO, I look forward to serving you, the member, and will continue to work hard on your behalf to provide safe, reliable, affordable power. Just as a quick reminder, the annual meeting attendance and quorum results, election results, and prize winner results will be available on the Marshall County REMC webpage tomorrow at www.marshallremc.com, and will also be in the next edition of the Indiana Connections monthly publication. From myself, the directors, and the staff, thank you, and we appreciate you attending.